Good afternoon. I'm Suzanne Akbaria. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the fourth and final webinar in the Ethiopian Studies series hosted by the Institute for Advanced Study. This series is co-convened by Aaron Butts, Samantha Kelly, Sabina Schmidtke, and myself. Our first webinar on the Beta Israel and Ethiopian Christian views of Jews and Judaism took place in November and was a great success. The second and third webinars, which focused on the topic The Turn to the Medieval in Ethiopian Studies and The Turn to Ethiopia in Medieval Studies, took place in February and March. Recordings of all of the talks from those webinars can be found on the IAS website if you search IAS Ethiopian Studies, and we'll post the link at the end as well. Today's event, titled Beyond Ethiopia, the Islamic Intellectual History of the Horn of Africa, will be introduced by my dear colleague, Sabina Schmidtke. At IAS, Sabina oversees the fields of Near Eastern and Islamic studies, and her contributions to the field of Islamic intellectual history are profound. I won't take up time today listing her publications, but I just want to highlight her commitment to collaborative and team-based work, which is extraordinary. It was originally Sabina's suggestion that the four of us collaborate in organizing this series of webinars, and I'm so pleased that she did. Before turning things over to Sabina, let me conclude my welcome with some housekeeping remarks. Please note that this session, like the previous ones, will be recorded. We'll have time for questions at the end, but please place your questions in the chat, and you can do this at any time, including during the talks. Finally, if you haven't already done so, let me encourage you to listen to the earlier talks in this series, available on the IAS website. Thank you again for coming, and let me turn things over to Sabina Schmidtke.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, for this very kind introduction, and the welcome also from my end. And it's my pleasure to introduce our four panelists today, plus one discussant. So from Moscow, we have Maria Bulach, who was educated at the Russian State University for the Humanities in Moscow. She's a researcher of comparative Semitic studies with a focus on Ethio-Semitic languages. She currently occupies the position of the leading research fellow of the Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies at the National Research University Higher School of Economics in Moscow. Among her many publications, I just want to point out one of her more recent ones, together with Leonid Kogan, a monograph with Leiden in Brill in Leiden, 2017, the Arabic Ethiopic Glossary of Malik al-Afdal, an annotated edition with a linguistic introduction and a lexical index. From Copenhagen, we have Alessandra Gori with us, who is Associate Professor of Arabic Language and Literature at the Department of Cross-Cultural and Regional Studies at the University of Copenhagen. His research activity focuses on the literary traditions of the Muslims of the Horn of Africa, a field in which he has been extensively publishing. And among his many publications, I just want to point to one of his latest publications, a hand list of the manuscripts in the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, Volume 2, The Arabic Materials of the Ethiopian Islamic Tradition, which came out in 2014, together with a number of other scholars. From Addis Ababa, and I think we are still waiting for him to join us, we have Hassan Muhammad Kawo, who works currently as a lecturer in the Arabic program unit in the Faculty of Humanities, Language Studies, Journalism and Communication at Addis Ababa University. And at the same time, Hassan is a doctoral candidate in historical studies at UCT, researching the making of an Islamic culture of writing, reading, and collecting in Ethiopia. He also became affiliated with Timbuktu Manuscript Project in 2009, sharing insights into Ethiopian manuscript culture in book history. Hassan's major research interests include literary heritage in Arabic script, Ajami literature, philology, manuscript studies, Ethiopian book, and intellectual history. From Paris, we have Anne Rigour joining us. Anne crossed the Red Sea to Ethiopia in 2009 after many years working on some of the manuscript traditions of Yemen. In 2014, she became part of the Islam in the Horn of Africa ERC project, which is based at Copenhagen and was in fact directed by Alessandro. Anne carried out missions for the project to Portland, Oregon, to look at the papers of the Gerhard Weiner collection, a private collection in the US, now at the Library of the Catholic University of America in DC, and to Harar. Anne is also the director of the peer-reviewed open access journal Chronique du Manuscrit au Yemen, which published a special issue entitled From Mountain to Mountain, Exchange between Yemen and Ethiopia, Medieval to Modern, that she co-edited together with Nancy in Binghamton in 2017 and 18. Now, lastly, from Morocco, we have Paul Love joining us. Paul teaches history and Islamic studies at the Al-Akhawain University in Ifran in Morocco. He works on the history of Ibadi Muslim communities in North Africa with a special interest in Ibadi manuscript cultures and libraries. In 2015, he has led initiatives and projects to Djerba, Tunisia, to conserve and to digitize Arabic manuscripts and early print materials. In 2021, he will begin work with an international team on a similar initiative to document, to digitize Ibadi manuscripts in the Jebel Nafusa region of Libya. Now, all the panelists will speak for about 10 minutes each, followed by Paul's comments on the entire panel. As Susanne said, either during the presentations or after, please type your questions, comments into the chat, and we will get to the Q&A session once Paul has finished his intervention. And now I pass the floor to our first speaker, Maria Bulach.